The convention when you add a middleware to the OWIN pipeline using Project Katana is not to use the use method with the generic parameter. Instead, you use a custom method with the signature use and then whatever middleware you want to add. So in this case, you would call use debug. However, in this case, I've actually decided to be a bit more explicit and name it use debug middleware. This just makes it a little bit more obvious what's going on. So how do you go about creating a method like that? Well, there are actually just extension methods to the iApp builder interface. So the first thing we need to do is to create a class in which we can create the extension method. I'm just going to call it debug middleware extensions. So to be able to add an extension method to this class, I need to start off by making it static. Next, I have to declare a public static void method with the same name that I want to use. So in this case, use debug middleware. And since I want to add my extension method to the iApp builder interface, the first parameter to this method needs to be an iApp builder with the this keyword added. Next, I need a parameter of type debug middleware options, because I need to be able to pass an instance of the options to the iApp builder when I register my middleware. But I want this options parameter to be optional, because I don't always want to reconfigure my middleware, so I'm just going to default it to null. But doing that means that I do have to make one extra null check here, and if the options is not being passed in, or passed in as null, I need to create a new instance of the debug middleware options class. But now that I have everything that I need, I can just go ahead and call the iApp builder's generic use method, passing in the debug middleware as the generic type parameter and the debug middleware options instance as a parameter. The last thing I want to do is I want to switch out the Pluralsight OWIN demo middleware namespace and replace it with just OWIN. This makes it a lot easier to find the extension method, since the using statement will already be in the file where I'm going to use it. So now that I have my extension method, I can just go back to the startup class and use app.useDebugMiddleware instead of calling the app use and passing the debug middleware as a type parameter. And if I want to use some debug middleware options, I can just pass those into the method like this. And now that I have this new way of adding my middleware, I might as well just remove the old one. So with that done, I guess there's only one thing left to do, and that's to press F5 and see if it actually works. So we get hello world as expected, and if we go back to Visual Studio and have a look, we do see that the request took 10 milliseconds to process, so everything seems to be working. So we now have a reusable middleware class that we can reconfigure using its own options, and we have an extension method for the iApp builder so we can register it in the OWIN pipeline in a nice way. So this is the way you should be building your middlewares when working with Katana, if you have any intention of reusing them at some point.